What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1987 Porsche 911 Carrera. Behind me is a 3.2 liter flat six, and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now, I am over the moon excited to be driving this here 930 because it's the coolest car in the world. It's an air-cooled Porsche 911, and that is just, I am like on the verge of tears for this video. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, ZachPradel.com, where you can buy stickers like this retro sticker pack or Cars Were Better in the 80s sticker, which would be perfect for this car. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you could read my behind-the-scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 3.2 liter flat six behind me. Well, it makes about 214 horsepower and is really quite the treat. Now, it is air-cooled. There is no radiator or coolant in the 911, at least of this era, and I love it. This was so signature Porsche. And just driving it through the gears, you have a ton of usable torque, and it's really, really fascinating. You get that girthiness from that flat six. It's angry, but it's pointing its anger at something useful. The open road. This is something else, man. This is something else. Rev matching it is so easy. Like I said, paired to it is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now, the interesting thing about this is known as the G50. This was the first year that Porsche offered a hydraulic 5-speed manual in the 911, and the previous years were cable-driven. People hated them if they weren't adjusted properly, and adjusting them was kind of a headache. So this is the good transmission, and it does feel amazing. However, the clutch pedal is very Volkswagen because it's actually hinged down at the bottom. Kind of an interesting feeling. Last but not least, of course, this 911 Carrera is rear-wheel drive. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of gauges like that signature center-mounted tachometer. I absolutely love that in Porsches. But off to the far left, I do have my fuel and oil. Then I have my temperature and oil pressure. Then the tachometer in the center, like I said. Off to the right is the speedometer, and then I get the clock. The steering wheel is small, and it has the nice Porsche logo in the center. It does not have power steering, so this tiny little wheel is giving me quite the workout this morning. Off to the left, I do have my headlight switches and my ignition key. This is a signature Porsche thing that I absolutely love. And then on the door, I have my power windows, 2 speakers, and of course my latch to get in and out. Moving into the center, I do have 2 climate control vents, as well as my fog lights. I have a 12-volt outlet, some warning lights, interestingly enough. And then I have the climate controls off to the left, very basic, and a aftermarket radio off to the right. Moving down on the center console, it has this really cool sort of panel to it. I have my hazard switch off to the left, rear defrost on the right, and then more climate controls for fan speed and air conditioning. Then we do have the shifter. The shifter is pretty tall, and it does have a little bit of a long throw. However, in an older car like this, I actually enjoy that because I feel like I'm really rowing through the gears and making my own way in the world. And like I said, it is a hydraulic transmission, and so it feels really, really nice and very modern in that way, which I love. Then I do get the handbrake. I have even more climate controls for like defrost and things like that. However, the 930 911 does not have any cup holders, so it fails the big friggin' bottle test. Then we gotta talk about the seats. The seats are very, very sporty, and for a big guy like me, these are probably the most sporty seats I could fit in and still be comfortable. I do find these seats very comfortable. However, they're sort of edging on getting a little small. Speaking of seats, we do have back seats. Now, the 911s have always had back seats where like the Boxers and Caymans don't. So, interestingly enough, if you want back seats, you actually have to get the 911. But I would not recommend putting any human life back there unless it is a child. Definitely not great. However, speaking of space, we do have a frunk up front. Here's what it looks like. Again, don't expect to put a month's worth of luggage up there, but go to the grocery store. You want to put like your jacket in there, things like that. You can absolutely do that. Now we have to talk about the looks. And oh boy, do we have to talk about the looks. This This might be the prettiest car ever made in my book. I don't know. It's just flat out amazing. Pun intended with the flat 6. This is just the prettiest car in my opinion. It's beautiful. The sculpted lines, it's angular, and yet it's also friendly. It has these big googly eyes at the front, but it has this spoiler that's gonna cut your neck. I love, love, love the styling of this car. I hope to own one day, even if it doesn't run, just to have in my living room so I could just stare at its beautiful lines all day long. And so let's get on to my final thoughts. Well, I don't think it's any surprise. This is one of the coolest cars in the world. It's fantastic to drive. It's gorgeous to look at. And I want one so bad. But I also do want to talk about the history of the 930. The 930 was made from the late 70s all the way up into the 80s. And the 930 actually saved the 911 name. You see, back in the early 80s, the 930 was around, but it was a turbo. They called it the Widowmaker, and I can only imagine what that's like to drive. But not many people bought them because not many people wanted to drive something so difficult and engaging. And so Porsche actually got a new CEO at the time, Peter Schutz. And he walked into the engineer room one day and he saw the timelines for all of their models over the next couple of years. And he saw that the Porsche 911's timeline ended in 1981. It was going to be replaced with the 944 or 924. And famously, the new CEO took that marker and extended the 911's timeline off the pad, onto the wall, and out the door. And he said, get to work on the next one. The 911 isn't dying. And so what they ended up doing was creating this car, the Carrera, with the 3.2 liter. It was a friendly 911 to drive. Yes, it still had those 911 looks that had become so iconic by the late 70s, but its engine and transmission weren't scary. But as a 911, you could actually drive without having to alter your will beforehand. This was the user-friendly 911. And what did it do? It worked. These sold really, really well. And so in turn, this saved the 911 name. From then on out, Porsche said, we gotta keep making these things. And they did, and still to this day, they do. I love that story of walking into the boardroom and taking that pen and saying, no, we're still gonna make these things, no matter what the engineers say. This is our cornerstone. You know, Porsche to me is such a homegrown experience. Ferdinand Porsche was a janitor at an Austrian mechanic shop, and he tinkered with things after the lights turned off at night. That's how I feel about this car. It's honest. It's not trying to overshoot what it is, but in doing so, it's retained how fun it can be. I love how air-cooled and simple it is. I love how just down for a good time it is. It's amazingly fun to drive, and even more amazingly fun to look at. I love this car. Almost more than I've loved any other car ever. And after 900 videos, it's a little hard to say. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Nino and his father for letting me take out this 911. It's amazing. It's so cool. I can't thank them enough, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.